Exorcisms, that stuff with the kid, his head spinning around, power sit-ups, and all that jazz. Yeah, that's legit, man. These people, that's a real deal. They're really concerned about it. They're afraid of it. They live in a state of fear. These demons are real things to them. There's people throughout history who thought vampires were in fact a manifestation of demons. So there's these outworld entities, for future reference, I'll refer to them as outworld entities, that have been called demons. And generally we all know the stories about them. Now, back in the 80s, when people were all talking about Dungeons and Dragons and magic and wizards, this is when the concept of demons came back to the forefront, because people were like, well, what are we going to fight? We got to fight something. What are we going to fight? Let's put it in a game. Let's make them demons. And everyone started doing research on old demonic tradition, and that's where a lot of the knowledge about demonology was preserved, surprisingly enough, through the role-playing games, which, of course, the church loved. And Focus on the Family burned many, many, many books, but they couldn't quite drive all that information out of mainstream. So, unfortunately, now there are those few people out there, like myself, who've been able to amass books over time upon demonology and what demonology is all about. Now, demonology is very different from Satanism. Satanism is a religion started by a Carney Barker who's Bavarian down in California in the late 50s, early 60s. Okay, that's Satanism. Demonology is something that goes way, way back. This is something that goes quite far out. And when you look into demonology, it branches into, of course, conjuration, the summoning of demons. And you have like the Seal of Solomon and blah, 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 blah. And that's why in Equilibrium they use the term tetragrammaton, because tetragrammaton is one of the sacred names of God, yada, yada, yada. The Masons have tie-ins with demonology, outworld research. So generally when you hear somebody saying conjuration, you think demonology. Now, let's suppose someone to some degree goes, okay, well, you know what? We're going to summon something. Now, that's a little bit different than just breaking out the old Ouija board. Okay, when you're summoning something, that means that you've got, people, intent, you're conjuring a physical entity to show up. Or, conversely, if someone is possessed, they have an entity inside of them that is cognizant, intelligent, has a hierarchy, is able to speak other languages, has memory, history. I mean, rather than looking at the sheer horrible aspect, sanity sponge factor, the fact that this child is possessed, you now actually have an outworld entity that can speak English that you can interrogate and can feel pain. And generally you can get the bottom line information from. So I don't think I'm going to be able to come across anybody who's truly possessed, make sure they're not just crazy. Because if a guy, he chews off his own tongue, he's barking blood, all the rest of it, looks to me like a psycho. Unless he can spin his head around, crawl on the ceiling, pick up a car. Not going to be too keen with the demonology thing. Don't really think he's possessed. I think he's crazy. So he can get on the short bus and make his way back to the hug me coat. Because I'm not really interested in crazy people. We're here for the demons, okay? We get a demon, cut his head off, put it on eBay. That's the plan. Unrefutable proof of the supernatural. If you can show me a demon, please contact RANT Media, because I want to go, and somebody like, you don't know what you ask, and you get, the people with the cool Spanish accent, they're like, no, es diablo, they come in to kill you. Well, that's fine, There's two ways you can deal with demons, generally. There's your classical way and your nouveau way. The classical way uses the Holy Bible. Holy Bible, generally, I guess, it's not bad. Weighs about 4 pounds. You're probably going to get about maybe a D4 plus strength bonus with one of these suckers, okay? If you light them on fire and throw them, that's an idea, but I don't think it'll work because they're demons. They live where there's fire, according to legend. So generally, you might get better at if you were to douse your Bible in the liquid nitrogen you used to cool your computer and then huck the frozen Bible at the demon. You might get a little bit better, and it would really piss him off. Personally, I go for the new version of demonic exorcism, which employs the Heckler & Koch Universal USP 45 caliber system, which, of course, comes with your optional land mount and silencing program, which makes doing it in an urban environment just a little bit more easy. So you have the old way versus the new way. And I kind of leave it for you to decide which way you want to go and how you want to deal with demonic possession. But, generally, they're pretty rare. So walking around with one of these will in the case of demons, not so good. You're not going to be able to get too far with that. So personally, I would say that you're probably better off to just kind of steer clear of that, hang back and observe, and call in reinforcements. Demonology is not something you want to mess with. One of the great things about living in the first world is the fact that we get all this guilt. A lot of the Catholics seem to believe that they got the market cornered on guilt. But, that whole guilt thing that's made the Catholic Church as big and as powerful as it truly is has now been spread out to an entire market. You've got charities everywhere. You've got, Feed the World, do this, do that. And when you realize that you've got all this stuff, being in the Western world, you have all this stuff and nobody else in the world has anything, you feel immensely guilty, especially when you're watching late night TV. You turn it on and there's starving children everywhere you look. So this has an effect on you and you feel really bad. You feel like, oh gosh, I'm a bad person because I have stuff. This, of course, is fabricated. This is something that is projected into you. And what it is guilt. So how do you get rid of this guilt? How do you unload these guilty feelings? You do this by giving money. A little charity hides a multitude of sins. Really clever guy said that one time. The way that they're trying to make money from this is to do things like tithing, where if you give a bit of your money to whatever cause it may be. Originally, it's used as a religious term where you'd have, pay certain money to churches, and then, you feel like you're doing good, and then using this kind of weird, bizarre chain letter mentality, somehow this money's supposed to come back to you, or some other nonsensical type equation. Makes no sense whatsoever. But when you look at, there's like, same thing could be said for Greenpeace, or even RANT Media for that matter. You look at all the stuff that's going on in the world, and you think, gosh, I gotta do something. I'll send $99.95 off to this location, and it'll make the world a better place. Now, chances are, there's nothing wrong with sending your money to an organization, provided you've done some research into what that organization is really about, and what really happens to your money. The bigger the organizations are, by simple mathematics, the more of a variable chance there is that it is corrupt. The smaller the organization it is, they're either corrupt right off the top, in which case it's 100% chance of being corrupt in a cult or whatever, or if it's small and everyone's sort of trying to be honest, well, there's less likelihood of things becoming corrupted within that organization. This is why I become suspicious of organizations like the Roman Catholic Church, Greenpeace, any focus on the family, any of these organizations which when you look at them in history you go, well, there's a lot of questionable things that have happened here and so on and so forth. Now that said, you look at some organizations, you look at like the whole environmentalist standpoints, you've got like Greenpeace, Earth First, all these kinds of guys, PETA, all that sort of thing. You look at that and you go, okay, well, who do I want to give my money to? Who do I want to say? Who do I want to support? Then you have to actually be involved. And nobody really wants to be involved. What you want is you want a nice, easy person. Who do I make the check out to so I can make my guilt go away? But it's not going to be like that. The way you want to do this as a responsible vlog is to actually do the research, actually do the reading, become involved, because your money is a weapon which you are giving to people to execute their will. Every dollar that you spend on an organization gives them the ability to affect reality. So you want to ask yourself, what kind of reality am I actually encouraging?